Welcome back to the Complete Aviation Solutions Deep Dive. This is number 43, and today we're switching gears a bit. Instead of our usual look at, industry trends, we're diving deep into a specific story.
And this is a good one.
It is, and it really highlights how, what seems like a simple business deal can have these massive and unexpected consequences down the line.
Exactly. The long game.
Yeah. So at the center of this story, we've got a businessman, Stephen Rothstein from Chicago. Back in 1987, he made, well, a pretty unbelievable purchase.
I'm intrigued. Let's hear it.
He bought something called an Air Pass from American Airlines. Now, this wasn't your run-of-the-mill plane ticket.
Okay, so something a little more exclusive.
A lot more. This Air Pass gave him unlimited first-class flights for life. For life.
Wow, unlimited. That's bold.
Yeah.
I mean, for him, amazing, but for the airline.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But it gets even wilder. He didn't stop there. He also bought a companion pass for another, get this, 115,000 pounds, so he could bring someone along on all these first-class journeys.
So almost £250,000 just for the right to fly wherever, whenever.
Pretty much. Now, in 87, first class was, real luxury. And this guy, Rothstein, was only 37. A young businessman, probably figuring he'd be doing a lot of traveling in the years to come. So maybe he saw it as a, strategic investment.
Right, a long-term play. Though you have to wonder what kind of calculations he was making. Was he really thinking he'd fly enough to make that back?
Good question. But for about 2 decades, it really did seem like a good deal for him. Over that time, he took something like 10,000 flights.
10,000.
Yeah.
That's hard to even grasp. How many is that a year?
A lot. And he racked up over 30 million miles in the air. That's more than circling the earth. I don't even know how many times.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And for the airline, well, that's a lot of empty first-class seats they could have sold.
Exactly. It's a stark reminder of how those unlimited offers can backfire when someone really utilizes them.
You think they maybe underestimated how much someone might actually use this pass?
I mean, it did end up costing American Airlines a pretty penny.
How much are we talking?
Reports say around $21 million. That's 16 million pounds. So yeah, not exactly chump change. And you can see why maybe they started to get a little concerned.
I'd be concerned. It really makes you think about how crucial it is to anticipate, all the possible ways people might use, or in this case, overuse a service.
Definitely. And it seems Mr. Rothstein really made flying a part of his everyday life. His former wife, Nancy, even said that to him. Taking a plane was like taking a bus. That's how often he was up in the air.
So not just for business then, really embedded in his routine.
Absolutely. But like many stories that sound too good to be true, this one came to a rather abrupt end.
Oh, what happened?
Picture this. December 2008, Rothstein's at the gate, ready to board a flight to London, and then boom, he's handed a letter, his Air Pass. Terminated, revoked, gone.
Wow, I talk about bad timing. And to be cut off like that after all those years,
Yeah.
it's got to be a shock.
Oh, he was definitely surprised and frustrated. He later said, why even let him get to the gate if they were just going to yank the rug out from under him?
So what was the airline's justification for canceling it after all that time?
They claimed he was abusing the system, doing something they called speculative bookings, basically booking flights for passengers who didn't actually exist.
Speculative bookings. What does that even mean exactly? And was that, clearly defined in the original terms of the Air Pass?
That's a good point. And it seems like that might have been part of the problem. It wasn't exactly black and white. But American Airlines pointed to 14 specific instances where flights were booked under some, let's say, interesting names.
Like what? Give us an example.
Bag Rothstein and Stephen Rothstein Jr.
Yeah, I can see how those might raise some eyebrows. It does suggest maybe, trying to game the system a little.
But Rothstein's defense was that the only rule he knew about was that he couldn't let others use his pass. And he claimed he had turned down, thousands of dollars a week from people wanting to buy access to it.
That's a lot of money to say no to. I guess that shows how valuable that unlimited first-class access was to people.
For sure. But here's where it gets even more complicated. Rothstein's wife and daughter said he never even used a computer. All his reservations were made by, and this is important, a paid employee of American Airlines.
Wait, so the airline's own staff were making these bookings? That kind of changes things, doesn't it?
Right. It makes you wonder about their internal procedures. If they were the ones making the bookings, did they know about these unusual names?
Good point. Hard to argue he was being intentionally deceptive if their own people were handling it.
And Rothstein himself emphasized that back in '87, when he bought the Air Pass, the only restriction they told him about was transferring it to someone else. He also pointed out that this was before, the days of strict passenger ID checks.
Yeah, air travel was a different world back then. Security wasn't nearly as tight as it is now.
Totally different. And it seems like that difference in, the operating environment over those 2 decades might have played a role in this whole dispute.
Right. What flew then, so to speak, might not fly now.
Exactly. But American Airlines wasn't just focused on Rothstein. They also brought up issues with other Air Pass holders. Some were, they said, giving their companion seat to strangers or just leaving it empty to have more space.
So it sounds like they were taking a hard look at the whole AirPass program, maybe realizing it wasn't as profitable as they thought it would be.
Yeah, maybe those unlimited perks were a little too unlimited. But of course, Rothstein didn't just accept the termination. He sued American Airlines, claiming they breached the original ticket contract by taking away his Air Pass.
I can imagine that was a complicated legal battle. Lots of arguments about contract interpretation, I'd guess.
I'm sure. But in the end, they settled out of court. And as you might expect, American Airlines discontinued the Air Pass program for good.
Probably a wise move, all things considered. Sounds like a cautionary tale for the whole industry.
It does. Bob Crandall, who was actually the chairman and CEO of American Airlines back when they launched the program, later said that they initially thought businesses would buy these air passes for their executives. He then admitted, and this is a direct quote, "It soon became apparent that the public was smarter than we were."
That's a pretty honest assessment. Sounds like they underestimated the creativity of the average traveler.
I did. They
Yeah.
thought it would be one thing, and people used it in ways they never anticipated. It makes you think twice about those unlimited deals, right?
It does. It really highlights how hard it is to predict long-term consumer behavior
Hmm.
and how people can find ways to, shall we say, maximize their benefits.
Right. So we have this businessman, thinks he's found a brilliant loophole, gets to enjoy unlimited first-class travel for years, costs the airline millions, and ultimately leads to the program's demise. It's a wild ride.
It really is. A reminder that what looks like a great deal on the surface can have some unexpected twists and turns.
Absolutely. And it leaves us with something to think about, right? When you see those offers that seem too good to be true, what are the potential risks? Not just for the company, but for the person taking the deal.
It's a two-way street. Both sides have to be savvy.
Exactly. It forces us to think about the long game, how even the most innovative ideas can have consequences no one saw coming.
The butterfly effect of business decisions.
I like that. And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder.